This is News Talk Radio Guyana 103.1 FM. Drink Pepsi Black for max taste, no sugar. Pepsi Black time, 18 hours or 6 p.m.
The news from Guyana, the region and the world. Compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom and powered by DemeraraWaves.com.
The news at 6 comes to you with the compliments of Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC. With the news at this time, I'm Dennis Chabrol. Good evening. First, the highlights. The United States wants the Guyana government to make its position on fighting corruption clear. Guyana Power and Light plans to ramp up its campaign against electricity thieves. A former policeman who was freed of a murder charge 3 months ago is suing the state for almost $1 billion Guyana dollars. Regionally, the Trinidad and Tobago government did not back Sir Hilary Beckles for a second term as Vice-Chancellor of the University of the West Indies. Antigua and Barbuda hopes to strike a deal that will see the United States paying millions of dollars in compensation in keeping with a ruling by the World Trade Organization. Internationally, Canada says it will not be sending government representatives to the Beijing Winter Olympics over concerns about human rights abuses in China. The details of these and other stories in a moment.
Is it a special occasion? Are you on a budget but still want a filling and also mouth-watering meal? Look no further. KFC is here for you at 9 locations and 6 drive-thrus, including the Amazonia Mall at Providence, which now delivers from Shore Base to Little Diamond. Call 632-0533, 6080162, or 503-3591. KFC.
It's finger-licking good.
And now the news in detail. The United States has suggested that the Guyana government needs to take a strong position on corruption. Issued through the American Embassy in Guyana, the U.S. government said a strong anti-corruption stance now will show Guyanese and the rest of the world that a government is committed to transparent institutions that utilize the country's resources to the long-term benefit of all Guyanese. In a message to mark International Anti-Corruption Day, which will be observed tomorrow, the United States said it is looking forward to the government's initiatives to combat corruption. These, the U.S. government says, include the Natural Resource Fund legislation that offers transparency and clear oversight, as well as a process that includes all stakeholders. Turning its attention to the private sector, the U.S. government said private sector actors must also answer for any role that they play in corrupt practices. The American government is advising that when choosing private sector partners, the reputable should be picked over the most convenient. The U.S. also sees important roles for a robust civil society and free press because they are critical to holding leaders responsible for their actions. The Guyana Power and Light GPL says it is losing at least $5 billion Guyana dollars annually to electricity theft and is actively considering taking thieves to court. Power Company Chief Executive Officer Barrett Dildial also says that plans are in the pipeline to move in some areas to remove illegal connections.
Well, that calls for a response, a team to go into those areas, and that's a huge problem right now. We are assessing how do we mitigate the risk of sending into a team into an area where almost everybody's stealing, and they're prepared to bring harm to anybody who tries to dissuade them from doing that. There is nothing more we can do in hardening the network. We have done enough. In fact, there's some other strategies available to us, but the legal folks would wish to tell us that we are essentially entrapping people. But those designs are designed to kill you, basically, if you want to access power illegally. And we would not wish to get to that. We wish to step back a bit and see what else we could do.
Mr. Dildial says a number of contractors who had been hired to install prepaid meters had also been involved in electricity theft.
The approach to it basically is to deal with the low-hanging fruits, and we dealt with that. with consumers who were just openly stealing, and of course large customers in particular who were tampering with the meters, and everything was in disarray. We have dealt with that, but I think over the last 5 years we have seen that persons have actually gone back down that same road. So we're seeing large customers now who have basically gone to tamper with their systems, both using private people and of course former GPL staff.
GPL has since re-employed a loss reduction director, installed sophisticated smart meters that are also being tampered with by contracted employees, and the company has also set up a data management center to detect meter tampering. Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony says nurses caught providing COVID vaccination cards to persons without giving them a jab will be fired. He says this amounts to serious malpractice and the Nursing Council will be called in.
If anybody is guilty, they would have to deal with the penalties that is in our law. So that's the first thing. The second thing, however, because it's also a breach of professional conduct. Nurses are guided by our nursing laws, and again, we would be taking stringent actions by sending this information to the Nursing Council for them to act upon, because we cannot have nurses who are, found in breach like this. It runs counter to the profession, so that's another avenue. And of course, if they're guilty, they would not be working with the ministry anymore.
2 nurses and a screening officer are on $150,000 bail each for providing forged vaccination cards to members of the public. Meanwhile, the Health Ministry says there are now 944 active cases. Of the 51 persons who were hospitalized, 18 are critically ill and are receiving intensive care. There have been 72 new cases within the past 24 hours. The death toll is now 1,009. The Guyana Power and Light GPL says it has sufficient generation capacity for the Christmas season, but there may be blackouts due to faults in the transmission system or downed utility poles. The Divisional Director of GPL's operations, Mr. Barrett Harjon, says the company will be able to generate 182.5 megawatts, and the projected electricity demand for the Christmas season is 136 megawatts. GPL's Chief Executive Officer Barrett Dindial says no emergency generation sets will be purchased, while the company has 46.5 megawatts reserve capacity. Road accidents can cause blackouts.
There won't be any use of emergency generation equipment this year. We have enough reserve capacity, and this is including base load capacity. But in terms of outages, we don't see an exposure on the generation side. Of course, on the network side, we always have an exposure, and that is, Mr. Harjan spoke to, essentially what we find happening around this time, as you know, we got people out there driving and they seem to be targeting the poles. So we have a lot of those, and there's only so much we can do. We really have to ensure that we are ready to respond to those when they happen.
GPL's Chief Executive Officer Barrett Dindial. Former Police Sergeant Colin Bailey, who was freed of a murder charge, is suing the state for $700 million Guyana dollars. That's because a police witness told the court that he had no evidence on which to charge him. He had been charged with the murder of his common-law wife, businesswoman Sir Matty Ramnares, in August 2013, and the charge in February 2016. The High Court judge, in dismissing the case in September 2021, had also criticized the police for doing this quite often. In court papers seen by News Talk Radio Guyana, Mr. Bailey wants $100 million in damages each for wrongful arrest and detention and wrongfully charging him with murder. Mr. Bailey also wants the court to award $100 million each in damages for breach of constitutional rights to liberty, breach of constitutional right of protection from inhumanly degrading punishment, breach of constitutional right to a fair trial within a reasonable time, and malicious prosecution. Further, he notes that he has lost more than $8 million in earnings for the 6 to 7 months that he had been incarcerated. A waitress and a female cashier were robbed last night at Parfait Harmony, West Bank, Demerara, by two men. Police say the women, whose ages are 29 and 20, told police that a gunman opened fire in her direction and then hit her with a firearm. The victims reportedly say that the men invaded their home and carted off one tablet, one iPad, one iPhone, all valued $180,000. They also stole a purse containing an identification card, Republic Bank card, NIS card, and $15,000. In the region, operations of the Kanawaima ferry service were affected today after workers at South Drain, Suriname, stopped working. They protested the fact that they have not yet been paid salaries for November because the company is broke. Eventually, the workers resumed duty at the ferry port today, but it is not clear when they'll stop working again. Star News reports that Union Federation President Dayanan Dwarka says there is no clear idea when the workers will be paid. The chairman has said that due to COVID-19, it has not been earning revenue because the Guyana-Suriname border crossing had been closed for several months. The Kanawaima ferry service says it has also not been attracting a large number of cargo and passengers since reopening because many persons are still using the Nakeri-Skeldon backtrack crossing. The Trinidad and Tobago government did not support the reappointment of the Vice-Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, Sir Hilary Beckles. The details from TT News Online.
Although the government was encouraged by the positive contribution of the Vice-Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, Sir Hilary Beckles, and his team, the government did not support his reappointment as they were concerned about the financial affairs of the university. This from Minister of Public Administration, Alison West. She was responding to a question on behalf of the Minister of Education in the Senate today. The minister was asked whether the government supported his renewal and to state the reasons if they didn't.
Based on the information presented in the reports provided to the Government of Trinidad and Tobago, and having regard to the need for the role of the Vice-Chancellor to have a transformative and new outlook in the approach to the business of education, the government did not support the reappointment of the Vice-Chancellor. Mr. Vice President, I wish to clearly state that the government did not delay the renewal of the appointment of the Vice-Chancellor. The term of the current Vice-Chancellor was due to expire on July 31st, 2021.
As it pertains to the affairs of the University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus, she was also asked to indicate why the principal of the campus was given a 1-year extension to his contract as opposed to a 2-year extension as proposed by the government.
After significant deliberations at the meeting of the University Council on April 30th, 2021, the Council agreed that the current principal of the St. Augustine campus should be offered a 1-year contract with the possibility of renewal for a further year. The deliberations of Council are generally confidential in nature.
Trinidad and Tobago's Minister of Public Administration, Alison West, in that TT News Online report. Barbados is preparing to assemble a number of prefabricated houses from China. As we hear in this report from Barbados today, the houses will be provided to persons who were earlier this year displaced by a violent storm.
Preparations are in full gear for local artisans to start assembling the Chinese-made prefabricated houses that will be the new residences of scores of people displaced by severe weather activity earlier this year. In an update on Tuesday at the site of government's new storage facility at the Six Rose Industrial Estate in St. Philip, where containers with the house parts from China were being offloaded, Minister of Housing, Lands and Maintenance Dr. William Duguid disclosed that a work plan is already in place.
As soon as customs and health and so on do their due diligence, which is after we open the containers and check that they are what they're supposed to be and so on and so forth, as soon as we can get that done, we intend to start the erection of the houses as quickly as we can. We're going to have training going on for our local artisans over the next few days. And then once that training is complete and we get access to the materials, we will immediately start construction, and we'll be working night and day. We have lights available, and we'll be working night and day, 2 shifts of 8 hours each over a 16-hour day to be able to get as many of these installed as possible.
Okay, so definitely before the end of the year.
Well, I'm pushing for before the end of the year to get as many done as I can. And that is my goal, but you have to set a goal and then work towards it. And that's what we're doing.
Barbados' Minister of Housing, Dr. William Duguid. Antigua and Barbuda is proposing a resolution to the long-running gaming row with the United States. In 2005, the World Trade Organization ruled that Washington had violated international trade agreements by prohibiting operation of offshore internet gambling sites. Antigua claimed that it lost $3.4 billion a year due to the U.S. action. But the World Trade Organization awarded the island $21 million. More from Antigua's broadcasting service.
It's been 16 years since the World Trade Organization's award in favor of this country, and Washington has not budged an inch in paying. Now Antigua and Barbuda is set to make a major move to secure a resolution. The government signaled its intention during the recent visit of the U.S. Ambassador Linda Tagliatella, as well as another official of the U.S. State Department.
We would have indicated to them that, we will extend a new offer in the new year, which will be significantly less than what we're pursuing. I think there's a difference in the interpretation in terms of liability. They have the view that the liability was capped at the $23 million. We have the view that it was cumulative and that it continued to accrue each year.
Officials in St. John's are of the view Washington owes well over $200 million based on the interest which has accrued. With no movement on this issue, Prime Minister Brown says his government will be moving decisively to engineer an amicable resolution.
We will look at the language again and get some legal advice and put forward a revised proposal early in the year, and I'm hoping we can bring this matter to a close as soon as possible.
He says his government does not want to have an antagonistic relationship with any country, large or small. The head of government is making it clear differences with the United States should not be construed as inherent animus.
That report from Garfield Bufford of Antigua Broadcasting Service. And now for the world news, we go to the BBC.
This is the BBC News with Fiona MacDonald. The British government is tightening COVID restrictions in England because of the emergence of the Omicron variant. The announcement was made in a hastily arranged news conference as the Prime Minister is facing an angry backlash over a party reportedly arranged at his official residence during the COVID lockdown a year ago. Here's Damien Grammaticus.
From Friday, face masks, already mandatory in England on public transport and in shops, will be compulsory for most indoor venues. The only exemptions will be for activities like singing and exercise. Then, on Monday, everyone in England will be required to work from home if they can. That will affect millions. And most controversial will be vaccine certificates. They will be required from later next week for indoor venues with more than 500 people and outdoor ones with more than 10,000. But in a deviation from the original Plan B, a negative lateral flow test will also be acceptable.
With more countries reintroducing restrictions, the Director General of the World Health Organization has said the emergence and spread of the Omicron variant could have a major impact on the pandemic. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus called on all governments to accelerate their vaccination campaigns and reassess their COVID plans, saying the time to contain Omicron was now.
The steps countries take today and in the coming days and weeks will determine how Omicron unfolds. If countries wait until their hospitals start to fill up, it's too late. Don't wait. Act now.
Germany's new centre-left Chancellor Olaf Scholz has promised to do everything to ensure a successful new beginning for the country. He was speaking alongside his predecessor Angela Merkel at a good-natured handover ceremony at the Chancellery in Berlin. Mr. Scholz thanked Mrs. Merkel for all she'd done during her 16-year tenure. He spoke of the need for continuity in tackling the coronavirus crisis, the most pressing challenge he faces. Lebanon is allowing Palestinians born in the country to work in a variety of professions that they have been barred from for decades. Our Arab Affairs editor, Sebastian Usher, reports.
Spread across 12 refugee camps throughout the country, Palestinians make up about 10% of Lebanon's population, but their position is more precarious than that of most other Palestinian refugee populations in the region. Their property rights are restricted, and some 20 professions have long been closed to them. This new move by the Minister of Labour is meant to open a range of opportunities. They will now be able to work as doctors and lawyers and a host of other sought-after jobs that require membership of a professional union. Palestinian groups in Lebanon have welcomed it as a significant step forward.
World News from the BBC. The Ethiopian Prime Minister says he's returning to Addis Ababa from the battlefront as he has now completed the first phase of the war. Abiy Ahmed said the struggle was not yet over and that a permanent solution must be found so the enemy would never again become a danger to Ethiopia. Mr. Abiy last month headed to the battlefront to lead the fight against the Tigrayan fighters. The US Special Envoy Rob Malley will travel to Vienna this weekend to lead a US delegation to talks to revive the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. The Vienna talks are due to resume tomorrow, Thursday. The US will participate indirectly. Last week saw the talks falter, with European diplomats saying Tehran had backtracked on diplomatic progress made. Canada has become the latest country to announce that no government representatives will be sent to the Beijing Winter Olympics next year. The Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, said Ottawa was very concerned about the human rights situation there.
As a country, indeed, as many partners around the world, we are extremely concerned by the repeated human rights violations by the Chinese government. That is why we are announcing today that we will not be sending any diplomatic representation to the Beijing Olympic or Paralympic Games this winter.
Mr. Trudeau added that Canadian athletes will be taking part in the Games. Britain, the United States, Australia, New Zealand and Lithuania will also not be sending any diplomatic representatives. The government of the Netherlands says it's willing to contribute $170 million to buy a portrait by the 17th century Dutch master Rembrandt. If Parliament approves the sum, the Rembrandt Association with the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam have said they'll contribute a further $28 million to help bring the work back to the Netherlands from France. BBC News.
That's the news to the moment.
On the go and need to grab a quick bite, but tired of the same dreary food? Well, KFC is here to brighten your day with a delicious, mouth-watering meal with their 9 convenient locations: Movie Town, Vlissingen Road, Mandela Avenue, Regent Street, Stabroek, Hink Street, Redenhoop, Parika and the Amazonia Mall. Now open from 9 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. And they're there to welcome you every day. KFC.
It's finger licking good.
And now a recap of the highlights. The United States wants the Guyana government to make its position on fighting corruption clear. Guyana Power and Light plans to ramp up its campaign against electricity thieves. A former policeman who was freed of a murder charge 3 months ago is suing the state for almost $1 billion Guyana dollars. Originally, the Trinidad and Tobago government did not back Sir Hilary Beckles for a second term as Vice-Chancellor of the University of the West Indies. Antigua and Barbuda hopes to strike a deal that will see the United States paying millions of dollars in compensation in keeping with a ruling by the World Trade Organization. And internationally, Canada says it will not be sending the government representatives to the Beijing Winter Olympics over concerns about human rights abuses in China. That's the end of the news, which came to you with the compliments of Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.
news from the BBC Extended Edition will be coming up in a short while. Stay tuned.
Giftland Mall, they're giving away vouchers from December 30 to Christmas Eve. You can say there's no such thing as Santa, but as for we on 103, we believe.
From December 13 to 24, listen to News Talk Radio Guyana 103.1 FM.
Answer a simple question and you can win yourself a voucher. Compliments of Giftland Mall.
Season's greetings to supporters of Giftland
and 103.1 FM.
The Christmas season is here, and the News Talk Radio Guyana 103.1 FM is in the spirit of giving. Starting from December 24th to January 1, you can have your Christmas greetings aired for 6 times. Yes, 6 for $20,000 or 4 for $15,000. That's not all. Streaming of your image on Facebook on Christmas Day and New Year's Day, and a 5-minute live broadcast. You don't want to miss out on these deals. Call us on 614-8205 or 692-9400 for more information. Season's greetings from 103.1 FM.
Here's an update for our customers. Instead of getting started from December 24, you can start with us from December 20. No strings attached, nothing changes. Get started with us from December 20.
On December 24 to January 1, you can get your greetings 6 times each day, streaming with your image on Christmas Day. 5-minute live broadcast.
All this for $20,000. Here's an update for our customers. Instead of getting started from December 24, you can start with us from December 20. No strings attached, nothing changes.
Or 4 times each day
for $15,000.
Right here on NTRG.
Here is an unbelievable offer from News Talk Radio Guyana 103.1 FM. You can send season's greetings December 24, 25, 26 and 27, and Happy New Year's greetings December 31 and January 1, 6 times each day, plus streaming of your image on Facebook on Christmas Day and New Year's Day, plus a 5-minute live broadcast from your firm. All this for just $20,000 or 4 times each day for $15,000. Call 614-8205 or 692-9400 for details and say Season's Greetings through 103.1 FM.
Here's an update for our customers. Instead of getting started from December 24, you can start with us from December 20. No strings attached, nothing changes. Get started with us from December 20.
We're now prepared to join the BBC World Service for the remainder of the evening. Stay tuned to 103.1 FM. Over now to London.
Before we go, the main headlines. Barcelona have failed to get past the group stage of European Champions League football for the first time in 21 years after losing 3-0 to Bayern Munich. And Australia's cricketers start the second day of the opening Ashes Test, replying to England's first innings of 147.
This is the BBC World Service. Join Maddie Savage as she explores how one poster sparked a national debate.
100 women on the BBC World Service.
Periods. There, I said it.
Menstruation, time of the month, lady business, whatever you call it, a lot of people still find it awkward to talk about. Even me, after months working on this documentary.
It's the most natural process there is, and the more we can normalize it, the more we can remove other stigmas related with it.
And in Sweden, one of the most feminist countries in the world, there's still divided opinion on when, where and how it should be discussed.
I don't think that my period is my boss's business, frankly.
And in the past, would you tell your employer that you were home because of a period?
No, in the past no, but now I would.
Only bleeding. At bbcworldservice.com/documentaries.
Hello, welcome to the BBC's World Business Report. Today, where now for the German economy as the Merkel era comes to a close will test the ambitious promises of the Green Party. Also today, an exclusive report from eastern Ukraine, where the collapse of trade with neighbouring Russia has brought hard times to once thriving cities. And fancy shopping on